Hello, I'm Sue Miller, Director of the Susanna Wesley Foundation, and I'm here in the chapel at Southlands College in the University of Roehampton with Dr. Matthew Barber-Rowell. He's a research associate with the Susanna Wesley Foundation, but he has all sorts of other connections and positions as well. So I'm just going to read from my notes here. He is independent scholar with a Dean's Scholarship at Virginia Theological Seminary, honorary research fellow at Liverpool Hope University, and Northern Network Lead, I think I should say, for the William Temple Foundation. Is that right? I hope I've got that right. Yeah. But I mustn't forget to mention Matthew's book, Curating Spaces of Hope, subtitled Transformational Leadership for Uncertain Times, which came out in 2025? 2025. So it's a recent book. Go out and buy it. So I'm going to ask Matthew a little bit about his work more generally, but also a project which he's conducted for us in the Susanna Wesley Foundation, or funded by the Susanna Wesley Foundation. So can I start off really by talking about spaces of hope, which is really, I think, central to your work. What are they? What do they do? What's the approach? How did you come to be part of that or found that movement?
Sure, absolutely. So, thank you very much. First of all, to the Susanna Wesley Foundation for engaging with Spaces of Hope. It's been I think, 15-year journey from when I graduated into a recession and found myself quite quickly unemployed and feeling quite depressed. My career's advice was to get a temp job, which is not what you want to hear, and my career aspiration was to get a job in the oil industry. That's where things started for me 15 years ago. I became a sales assistant at a petrol station, so I got my job in the oil industry, but the reality of that hit home really quickly. The existential crisis that created for me and the challenge to understanding who I am as a person of faith was in that time as well. So that started me off looking for and searching for hope. A number of challenges and crises later, and I found myself in dialogue with people in communities in South Manchester who are equally looking for and searching for hope. And in response to crises shaping the public square, so Brexit was on the horizon then, austerity was gripping the kind of communities that we were a part of, a mental health crisis was significant. And the spaces of dialogue that I was holding at that time became known as Spaces of Hope. So it was a simple phrase, reference point really, for talking about things that we cared about, searching for hope, and then finding a next step out of that. So that's where it started. 10 or so years later, 80 or so gatherings later, getting on for 2,000 people, having engaged intentionally in spaces like this, a movement has formed. Searching for hope, opening up spaces for dialogue in marginalised communities, in churches, in community centres, between people of different faith and none, institutions around the public square, in higher education, the third sector. This year, in 2025, we're in a temple in central London, one of the foundational institutions for seeking justice in the public square in the UK. So there's a wide range of different spaces that have been engaged with, and as per your introduction, going across the pond to the US and considering if there are reasons that people might search for hope in America as well.
I'm sure there are.
Sure. So it's been a wide-ranging conversation and approach, and out of that has emerged transformational leadership is the language that's being used, but an approach to leadership that updates the William Temple tradition of public theology for the 21st century. Temple was the Archbishop of Canterbury that supported the foundation of the welfare state, post-war welfare state in this country, and he offered a blueprint for citizen engagement in the welfare state. Curating Spaces of Hope speaks in dialogue with that approach and offers a means of citizen engagement in the public square in the 21st century to respond to crisis. So,
quite a lot of work that has gone on there, and quite a feat, I think, to establish something like that and run that many gatherings and places for dialogue. So congratulations on that, and on the book, which I think has been well received. So can we take forward that conversation about what you're calling transformational leadership? Because the project to which we contributed in SWF was called Transformational Leadership Practice and Pedagogy. I think it's still a bit ongoing, isn't it, that project? So can you tell us a little bit more about the sort of characteristics of that leadership approach and how that can be conveyed and the tools for extending its reach?
Sure. So the way that things have developed in the last, well, since the pandemic, is that the temple tradition has been put in dialogue with the political theory of Antonio Gramsci. He offers a foundation for critical theory and for a general sense of where leadership can come from. He talks about organic and traditional intellectuals. Organic intellectuals being people who can represent their community context and share stories of change in a way that can bring about change. So I set the work that I've been doing in dialogue with Gramsci's work and developed transformational leadership through that. So what that looks like is a set of general characteristics that have been found across the work that have been done through the different pieces of research that have been done. So that leadership is incarnational, it's negotiated, it's formal and informal. We can all do this, and it's expressed through different roles or responsibilities. But it's animated and taken forward by a set of shared guiding principles. And this is the relationship back to Temple's work. He had 3 guiding principles for citizen engagement. There are 5 within transformational leadership. So that combination and an understanding of the spaces that we're in and the crises shaping those spaces has been the foundation upon which I've been building this year. Finding ways of guiding people through a process to understand for themselves and diagnose for themselves what the crisis is in their context, and then using those principles and the skills and experiences they have to then co-create new projects, outcomes, ideas that they can use to respond to what's going on in their context. So 2 environments that I've been working in, one at Virginia Theological Seminary with seminarians from across the States, but within the Episcopal Church primarily, all gathered in Virginia in October this year. And then a second group at Coventry Cathedral. And so it was Reconciliation Tide at Coventry Cathedral in November. And so on the first day of Reconciliation Tide, Spaces of Hope was used to guide people through a retreat, essentially, to explore for themselves how they might engage in reconciliation using transformational leadership as the approach.
Well, thank you for that. That's fascinating. I mean, transformational leadership as a term, I think, is used very differently in lots of different contexts. Sure. And you've come out with a particular version of transformational leadership, which is much more widely distributed amongst people than relying on a heroic leader. And I think that should be stressed. Sure. Because as soon as one reads transformational leadership, sometimes one imagines that focus on the individual as opposed to the distribution across the piece.
Right.
So perhaps particularly the difference lies in the nature of transformation that you're talking about. So perhaps you could talk about that transformation that you're imagining.
Sure. So the nature of, the transformational nature of the work, people can envisage all sorts of things, and they can expect a kind of grand or miraculous change to take place. The argument that I'm making with this and the journey that I've been on, and hundreds and now thousands of people engaging with it, it starts with a personal transformation. It starts with, in theological terms, a heart change or metanoia. It's a conversion that we go through to recognise both our circumstances and the need for change in order for transformation to come about. So it starts with a personal experience, but it also relates to the broader conditions we're in. I talk about it in the book as living with liminality, going through a process or a rite of passage of change, which can be understood broadly within society as the uncertainty that we're living with today. So we're going to come through all of this crisis and change and difficulty we're facing. We're going to be different after it. We're going to be transformed. We're going to gain something. We're going to lose something. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about when I talk about transformational leadership.
That's really helpful, thank you. There's much more to be said, and there's much more that we may well have other conversations like this in the future, I think, Matthew. But for now, I give you Dr. Matthew Barber-Rowell, and please go and read his book, Curating Spaces of Hope. And thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.